Hello all, and welcome back to...
The game will now commence.
No, not again! I'm not gonna do it. Okay, fine. Let's try this again. Hello all, and welcome back to Alice in Borderland. Last episode, we discussed what Season 2 was going to be about, and we took a look at the Borderlands from a realistic perspective rather than a fictional one. In this episode, however, we're going to look at the ending of Season 2, what it means, what the third season will hold, because come on, a show this successful and good for Netflix is not just going to end like that. They need more of it. And some more speculatory ideas for how they can go about certain things. So if you haven't watched Season 2 yet, I suggest you go do so because there will be major spoilers up ahead. So, let's recap the ending of Season 2. We get the shocking twist that most of our main characters didn't go to the Borderlands simply because they hate their life, while some of the other characters may have shown up that way, but for our main characters, it was clinical death. A meteorite absolutely destroyed a chunk of Shibuya. All of our main characters slowly came back, no matter how terrible they were, and luckily even An, who we all thought was very dead, was able to come back from the Borderland, which I bet we were all extremely happy about. We watch as they all slowly reunite, and we end with Arisu and Usagi. As we do one final pan around the hospital, we end with the deck of cards blowing in the wind, leaving us ominously with the Joker. So now, our first question. What does the Joker mean? Well, just like with the last episode, we need to turn to the manga for our answer. In the manga, once Arisu and Usagi finish the Queen of Hearts game, Arisu encounters a mysterious and shadowy being. This being appears with his Joker card, hence the alias of the Joker. Some may think that he's the main antagonist of the series, but really, he's just the middleman. When he asks Arisu if he looks like a god or a devil, the image of Sanzu River comes to Arisu's mind. In Japanese Buddhism, the Sanzu River is the river that one must cross to enter the afterlife. It weighs one's offenses to determine the path you must take. Because of this, the Joker is seen as a similar equivalent of the ferryman who carries the dead to the netherworld. The Joker transports people between the world of the living and the afterlife through the Borderlands. It is seen as an immortal entity and an intermediator. While we didn't see him in Season 2 of the live-action show, we did get to see his card as a little hint that the Joker was the one behind everything, which connects to the manga. Now this poses the question, what does this mean for our main characters? Well, nothing really. They have successfully escaped from the Borderlands. This card luckily doesn't show that this is a trick being played on them, that they're in another game. They absolutely escaped, and this is a hint about who was behind it all. However, there still can be a Season 3. While, sure, we have completed all the chapters of the main manga, but there are still two spin-offs, Alice on Border Road and Alice in Borderland Retry. Alice on Border Road is a complete reboot and spin-off with entirely new characters, but Alice in Borderland Retry is a direct sequel. While Netflix will most likely go with Retry for the third season as it contains the same characters, I will still go over Alice on Border Road in case they decide to shake it up on us. So let's start with that one. Alice on Border Road follows our new protagonist, Alice Kojima, as she and 11 other people wake up on a road in a desolate Kyoto, which at this point we know it's the Borderland. However, things are a little different. Each of the 12 total people have a specific face card, with Alice holding the Queen of Hearts. Don't get the wrong idea though, all of these characters are still players that are immigrating into the Borderland, they aren't citizens. It's a very different story that doesn't follow the same flow at all. It acts similar to the way that the King of Spades' game was set up. They aren't the individual isolated games like the original world, but rather the map is the game. They are given no information or rules, which again, very different from anything else Alice in Borderland. It's hard to find much else about Alice on Border Road, as it is much less popular than the original, so I had to go to some very strange online places to read this manga, where I always had to make sure I have my VPNs and virus protection on. The characters in Alice on Border Road are originally from Tokyo, but are transported to Kyoto. They're given this hint to walk to Tokyo by a character holding the King of Clubs in search of answers. The characters decide to divide into two groups, with one group making the journey back to Tokyo and the other staying in Kyoto. The distance from Tokyo to Kyoto is about 367 kilometers, or about 290 miles, which would take close to 100 hours of non-stop walking, meaning taking no breaks at all. However, the Jack of Diamonds, who was in the Journey group, refused to make the journey back to Tokyo and consequently was shot to death. After a very long journey, they finally reached Tokyo. However, it's quite a bit different. Most of it is underwater and a huge storm circles around it. They reach a non-submerged area where they make their final revelation. The last place they were in Tokyo and the starting place that they all gathered in are the starting and ending points of the 53 Tokaido stations. The Tokaido was one of the 5 routes that were constructed during the Edo period of Japan. Alice connects this with the amount of cards in a deck, 52 plus 1 for a joker, which is 53. Finally, they discover the clear condition. The way to win this game and for everyone to return back to the real world is to return to the spot that you were last at in the real world and return the card back to those positions. And just like that, Alice sees the outline of everyone's body on the floor, telling them where to put their cards. They do so, and the survivors return back to the real world. So that's Border Road. Many of the people who have read Border Road, thinking it would be a lot like Borderland, were very disappointed by how much it differed from the original work, but a lot of people seem to like that one regardless. The only thing is, I don't think that Netflix will go with this for a season 3. It's just way too different, and many people will be disappointed to see none of the characters that they followed before, especially considering how many people who watch the live action shows don't have much experience with the variety that manga presents, hence why I would assume they would go with Alice in Borderland Retry. So now we need to ask, what is Alice in Borderland Retry? Well, Alice in Borderland Retry, also known as just Retry, follows adult Arisu, who is now married to Usagi, who has a baby on the way. After he came back from the Borderlands, he lost himself. He's a much different person. He became a school counselor and licensed psychologist, and Usagi became a sports trainer and professional climber. When he's transported back to the Borderlands, he recognizes much of it, but doesn't know how or from where. He is now passionately set on going back to see Usagi again. This version of the Borderland goes back to the way it originally worked, going to buildings with its lights on to play death games. Eventually, while playing the first game, everything comes back to Arisu and he remembers exactly where he is and what the Borderlands are. He becomes somewhat of a teacher in the Borderlands, explaining how the games work and what they are. The game that he's playing is a 9 of Hearts, which is very unfortunate. However, Arisu is a different person now. He's more passionate about getting back, so he's making rash and kind of violent decisions. He's actually choosing people to die now instead of trying to save everyone he can. He gave up on working together with people, and it really didn't work out. He overlooked many of the game's features, which honestly isn't new for his character. The game started with 6 people, but ended with only 3 on the final stage. But something strange happens when they clear this final stage. Arisu comes back to the world of the living. It turned out that Arisu was crushed by a sign during a typhoon, which led him to the Borderlands. When he came out, though, Usagi was also in the hospital, but not because of the Borderlands, but rather because she gave birth, and they were all reunited once again. So this is most likely what that 3rd season will entail. 26-year-old Arisu being crushed by a sign in a typhoon and playing the 9 of Hearts game. This game is absolutely wild, though. There were so many twists and turns and violence, so I believe they can make this an entertaining 3rd season just from this 13-chapter spin-off. But now for the speculatory part of the episode. If they want to do another twist in the Netflix show that isn't presented in the manga, there is a very clear opportunity that can be utilized. We know that the Joker is an intermediary being, not necessarily seen as good or evil, but there is definitely a way to narrow it down based on how the Netflix show presents itself. In the show, we see Arisu meet back up with Shota and Karube after they have died, and we know that the Joker likes to meet with the players after they win the game, so clearly this is something that was manipulated by said Joker. This is obviously a very nice thing to do, giving people the opportunity to say goodbye to their closest friends and for their friends to talk to them one last time. Because of this, we can assume that the Joker that is presented in the Netflix show is inherently good. Now, you can argue that sending people to the Borderlands is a bad thing to do, but it doesn't seem like it was very much of a choice. The Borderlands is the deciding factor for where you go next, and the Joker allows the winners to run said Borderland the way that they want, taking a mostly hands-off approach to it, another way he is a good being. Now let's get to the point behind what we just discussed. If Netflix wants to create a huge twist, there is a very big and very clear way to do so. In a deck of cards, unlike what Alice said in Alice on Border Road, there are 54 cards. There isn't one, but two Jokers. And what do they look like? Well, they invert each other. Either one is colored and one is grayscale, or one is red and one is black. There are many ways for them to look, but they always look different. Putting this into account, especially with how we saw that the Joker from the table is an inherently good being, they can always make a bad one. The second Joker, a being of hate and anger. They have never done this in the manga, so it would be a thing that only the Netflix show would have, but that's what would make this an interesting twist. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But that's why this is just a speculation for what could possibly be done. Similar to the last episode where I looked at the Borderlands in a way that holds its own rules against itself to show that people shouldn't be able to survive, this is just speculatory ideas. And there we go. We've discussed the ending of Season 2, we've talked about what Season 3 will most likely be based on the manga spin-offs, and we've come up with a speculatory idea. Let me know what you think of these down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. These are the best ways to support me, and they are absolutely free. I also want to express my huge gratitude to all of you for 50,000 subscribers. What? That's insane. I'm going to try to do something special for all of you to celebrate, but I just want to express now how absolutely grateful I am. Thank you all again, and I'll catch you in the next one.